Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the end of the year book tag. This horrible, dreadful year is finally coming to an end, so let's celebrate with a tag. Question 1 is, are there any books you started this year that you need to finish? I have one. It's Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. I started this book about a month ago. I've been listening to it on audiobook, and I've actually been really enjoying it so far. I'm about halfway through, I believe, but I actually really don't like listening to audiobooks because my mind is like constantly running at like 100 miles an hour. So I lose focus very easily, and I constantly have to rewind like every 5 minutes or so because I just stop listening and forget what's going on. I also only listen to audiobooks if I'm in the car or at work. I never listen to them anywhere outside of those situations, and my job actually gets pretty hectic at times, so sometimes I really just have to turn it off for a couple hours, and that makes it even more difficult for me to get through a 30-something hour long audiobook. And also, along with that, because I only ever listen to them at work or in the car, I mean, there's also times when I'm driving and I don't really feel like listening to Imperial Russia. So not listening to an audiobook every single time I get in the car. I recently bought this copy of it so that I can read it and then also listen to it when I'm outside of the house, just so I can get through it faster, because I've been reading this for a while now and I'd like to just finish it as soon as possible because I'm also really enjoying it, and I'd like to be able to read the story at a faster pace than, I don't know, for like an hour every week. I'd like to get through it. I want to finish it. So only listening to the audiobook isn't really the best way for me to get through it at this point. The second question is, you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year. During the autumn or fall season, I'm usually more in the mood to read either spooky books like horror or historical fiction. I mean, I'm kind of always in the mood to read historical fiction, to be honest, but maybe just like this much more in the fall. I don't know. The two books that I read this year that kind of transitioned me into the autumn season were The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh and Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. They're both vampire books, and they're both kind of historical fiction. I mean, Beautiful takes place in like late 19th century, I believe, New Orleans, and Interview takes place over the course of like 18th to 19th century New Orleans, as well as 19th century Paris, France. So both of these books kind of fulfilled those autumnal requirements for me. The next question is there a new release that you're still waiting for? I don't have any new releases that I'm still currently waiting for, but one new release that came out earlier this year that I've been really wanting to read is The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. I think I mentioned my obsession with vampires at least once in every video, but here it is again. Everything vampire related, well, mostly everything vampire related, whether it be books, movies, TV shows that are released, I'm interested in. This book takes place in like 90s suburbia, and from what I know of the plot, it's about a book club that has to like essentially protect the town from a vampire. I've heard really good things about this book, and it gives me like major True Blood vibes, so I have a feeling that I'm gonna enjoy it. At least I hope I do, because it sounds like a ton of fun and it sounds like True Blood, and I like True Blood, so we'll see. The next question is, what are 3 books you want to read by the end of the year? I recently uploaded a video of all the books that I want to read by the end of the year, so I'll leave a link to that in the description or put it somewhere on the screen or whatever, so you can go check that out. But for the tag, I went ahead and picked 3 that I didn't mention in that video, just to like mix it up. The first one is In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. I've seen Kat from Paperback Dreams just rave about this memoir, and it sounds really interesting. It's a memoir about an abusive relationship, and that alone sparks my interest just because that is a very hard topic to discuss, and it's also a very, I guess, really personal situation that people don't typically really understand what it's like to go through something like that unless you've gone through something like that. But it's also apparently not written like a traditional memoir, and I don't entirely know what that means, but it sparks my interest. So I've heard incredible things about it, so I can't wait to read it. The second is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I've had this book for a few years now, and I just haven't picked it up, as one does with books on your bookshelf. Like, I don't have a specific reason, I just haven't. I fell in love with Sylvia Plath's poetry around the time when I started high school, so since then I, of course, wanted to read her novel, The Bell Jar. But like I said, for some reason I just haven't gotten around to actually picking it up and finally reading it, so hopefully I finally do that this year. I really would like to get to this soon because it's just It's been so long now. Like, I need to just read it at this point. It's been so long. And the third one is Perfume by Patrick Suskind. I've been interested in reading this for about the past year, and I finally recently got it. So I'm really excited to finally read this. This book follows a boy who is born with an amazing sense of smell and learns how to make perfumes, hence the title Perfume. He eventually becomes obsessed with capturing the scent of things like doorknobs, wood, a woman. This is a murder story, so it's rather dark, and I've heard that the writing is quite beautiful, so I'm very much looking forward to reading this. The next question is there a book you think could still shock you and become your favorite book of the year? Honestly, any of the 3 books I mentioned in the previous question, I wouldn't be surprised if they make it up there in the favorites of the year, just because I have pretty high hopes for all of them, pretty high expectations. Honestly, this has been a pretty good year for reading for me. If this year has been good for anything, it's been for my reading. I haven't really read that many disappointing books this year. I think the only really bad book that I read this year, or the only book that I read this year that I just didn't like at all, was The Awakening by L.J. Smith, which is the first book in the Vampire Diaries series. That book was just... It was a bad time. It wasn't even so bad that I could enjoy it. It was just bad and just bad. So, now the last question is, have you already started making reading plans for 2021? I don't typically make reading plans per se, but the one thing I have planned, I guess, for 2021 in regards to reading is to complete The Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice. I've so far read the first 2 books, Interview with the Vampire and The Vampire Lestat. The series is quite long. There are about 14 books, I believe. So it's gonna take me a little while to get there, but I have hope. You know, big goals for 2021 here. That concludes the end of the year book tag. Hopefully 2020 has some tricks. 2020, oh my gosh. Hopefully 2021 has some tricks up its sleeve. Hopefully it has some surprises. Good surprises, because we had a lot of bad ones this year, so good ones, only good ones. That's all we want in 2021. Nothing bad. Let's not manifest anything bad. Thank you. Anyways, yes, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see y'all next time.